In this unit, we will cover the heart, circulation, lymphatics, and immune system. Our blood is used to transport things like nutrients, waste, and oxygen. It helps to regulate body temperature and pH. It also provides immune protection and forms clots when the system leaks. Our blood is 38 degrees Celsius or 100.4 Fahrenheit. This is warmer than what you may expect since this is the temperature inside, not what we measure on the mucous membranes. The pH range is 7.35 to 7.45. Blood volume depends on size, with females typically having 4 to 5 liters and males having 5 to 6 liters. The blood consists of the plasma or liquid and the formed elements or cells. The picture to the right shows some illustrations of some red blood cells. The ones on the top are rather normal shaped. The one by image C is one that is hyperhydrated and getting ready to burst, and image D is one that is cremated. The plasma is the liquid portion of the blood and is mostly water at 91.5%. There is 7% protein and 1.5% other components. Overall, the plasma makes up 55% of the total blood. Of the protein in the plasma, 54% is albumin made by the liver to help control osmotic pressure. The globulins are 38% of the protein and consist of antibodies and immunoglobulins, which are immune proteins. Fibrinogen is 7% of the protein and is used in forming clots. The formed elements are the cells. They are 45% of the total blood. They include the red blood cells and white blood cells. Red blood cells carry oxygen, and we have between 4.8 and 5.4 million cells. White blood cells are the immune cells. Counting red blood cells is very impractical, so instead we measure the hematocrit. The hematocrit is the percentage of the total blood volume occupied by red blood cells. The white blood cells are also called leukocytes. We typically have between 5 and 10,000 white blood cells. The granulocytes have a granular appearance and include the neutrophils, eosinophils, and basophils. The neutrophils are also known as PMNs or polymorphonucleocytes and are 60 to 70% of the white blood cells. The eosinophils are 2 to 4% of the white blood cells, and the basophils are 0.5 to 1%. The agranulocytes do not have a granular appearance and include the B and T lymphocytes. The T lymphocytes have two subsets, the TC or cytotoxic T cells and the TH or helper T cells. The B lymphocytes include the memory B cells and plasma cells that secrete antibody. The NK cells are natural killer cells, which are a nonspecific immune cell that target anything foreign. Monocytes are 3 to 8% of the white blood cells. Platelets are membrane fragments of giant cells called megakaryocytes used in clotting. We have between 150,000 and 400,000 of these. The process of developing the formed elements is called hemopoiesis or hematopoiesis. Some of this occurs in the red marrow. The red marrow is the vascularized connective tissue found in the trabecular spaces of the spongy bone. The process begins with a pluripotent stem cell, which has the capacity to form into several different types of cells. It is like a cell that has not decided what it wants to be when it grows up. Most of them will form myeloid stem cells, which develop in the red marrow. They can form red blood cells, platelets, eosinophils, basophils, PMNs, or monocytes. Some will form lymphoid stem cells and will undergo incomplete development in the red marrow and then move to the lymphoid tissue. These will develop into the B and T lymphocytes. Red blood cells, or erythrocytes, have a distinct structure. They are shaped like a biconcave disc with no nucleus and no organelles. They contain the pigment hemoglobin to carry oxygen. One thing to remember, the ending sites mean cells, erythro means red, leuco means white. Here we have a short tutorial on the red blood cells. Blood, the river of life, carries substances between cells and the external environment. The average adult has about 5 liters of blood. Blood is a connective tissue. Plasma is the fluid matrix, and blood cells and platelets are the formed elements of the tissue. Plasma comprises 55% of the blood and blood cells, which are formed in the red bone marrow and make up the other 45%. This learning objective examines the red blood cells. We will look at the one on the white blood cells later on. The hemocytoblast is a type of stem cell found in the bone marrow. Under the influence of growth factors, the hemocytoblast differentiates into types of blood cells. The red blood cells are also known as erythrocytes, comprise 99% of all blood cells. These tiny cells are specialized to carry oxygen. They have a biconcave shape to increase the surface area for gas exchange. Erythropoiesis, or red blood cell formation, occurs within the red bone marrow. Hemocytoblasts give rise to erythroblasts that can synthesize millions of hemoglobin molecules per second. The cells extrude their nuclei but may still contain some remnant endoplasmic reticulum, which looks a bit like fine netting. These cells are the reticulocytes that will exit the bone marrow and lose the remnant ER. Red blood cells are so numerous that the healthy range for adult females is 4.2 to 5.4 million cells per cubic millimeter, a fraction of a drop of blood. The healthy range for men is 4.6 to 6.2 per millimeter. Red blood cells can bend and pass through the body's blood vessels. The red blood cells may vary in number according to exercise levels and oxygen content, which can be affected by altitude. The main function of the red blood cell is to carry oxygen. The oxygen-carrying protein hemoglobin occupies 1/3 of the cell. When the hemoglobin combines with oxygen, oxyhemoglobin, it is bright red. When it releases oxygen, deoxyhemoglobin, it turns a bluish color. Prolonged oxygen deficiency, called hypoxia, results in a bluish cyanotic appearance. Red blood cells become fragile and wear out in about 120 days. Old red blood cells are more rigid and have difficulty getting through the capillaries. They rupture as they pass through the liver or spleen and are destroyed by macrophages. Hemoglobin decomposes into iron in a greenish pigment biliverdin. The iron can be reused by the marrow. The liver converts some biliverdin to an orangish bilirubin, and both are secreted as bile pigments. Because of the rapid rate of red blood cell production, vitamin B12 and folic acid deficiency cause severe reduction in red blood cell numbers. These vitamins are essential for DNA synthesis by all cells, but a shortage particularly impacts fast-dividing cells. Even though iron is reusable, some iron must be included in the diet. The presence of vitamin C helps iron absorption. A balanced diet is important for healthy functions of the body. And there is a link to this so that you can go ahead and complete these little quiz questions on your own. So this slide here summarizes the red blood cell life cycle. A red blood cell will live for 120 days. At the end of their life cycle, they migrate to the liver, spleen, and red marrow, where macrophages phagocytize the red blood cells and split the heme and globin. The globin portion is broken into amino acids to be recycled. Iron is removed from the heme and is attached to a protein called transferrin, which carries it to the red marrow to make new hemoglobin. The non-iron heme is converted into biliverdin and bilirubin. The bilirubin can be converted into bile used in the gastrointestinal tract, or into urobilin to pigment the urine, or stercobilin, a brown pigment in the feces. Hypoxia is a state of oxygen deficiency. During hypoxia, you may see cyanosis, where the skin with blood vessels near the surface, such as the lips and fingers, turns blue. The deficiency in oxygen triggers erythropoiesis, or production of red blood cells. This helps the body to be able to increase the oxygen intake by carrying more and more red blood cells. The process is turned on by EPO, or erythropoietin, a hormone from the kidneys that stimulates red blood cell formation in the marrow. There are synthetic forms of EPO, such as the drug Procrit, which are used to stimulate red blood cell production in chemotherapy patients with too low of blood counts. Traveling up in elevation stimulates red blood cell production because there is less oxygen in the environment available and less saturation. This is why exercising at a higher elevation is more difficult. The neutrophils are a white blood cell that specializes in phagocytosis, especially of bacteria. They also contain the enzyme lysozyme to help destroy the bacteria. An increase in the number of neutrophils indicates possible bacterial infection and needs to be taken into consideration with the other signs and symptoms, since that is not the only event increasing neutrophil counts. The eosinophils work along with histamine and are active in parasitic worm infections and allergy responses. The basophils release histamine and other chemicals, promoting inflammation and allergic responses. These are found near blood vessels, so the chemicals are easily spread in the blood and tissues. The B cells will form plasma cells to secrete antibody in response to infection. T cells help promote immune function or to be cytotoxic where they kill cells. The TC, or cytotoxic T cell, is a key player when an infection is inside a cell. We cannot pull the infection back out, so the cytotoxic T cell kills the infected cell. The TH, or helper T cells, have two subsets. The TH response is active in promoting the infection response, where the TH2 is involved in promoting allergic and hypersensitivity responses. The TH1 and TH2 tend to oppose each other. The NK cells target cancer cells and microbes. They are nonspecific and attack anything foreign in the body, where some other immune cells will only respond to one specific invader. The MHC is the major histocompatibility complex. This is a marker unique to your own cells to identify self. There is tremendous variation in the possible combinations making up the MHC, enough so that no two humans who have ever lived would need to have the same MHC. Genetically identical twins would have the same MHC, but it is extremely unlikely that you would find this in any other living person. This is very important in organ and tissue transplants. Some organs can have as little as 50% match, while some need much closer matches. Even with a very close match, the recipient will spend most of their life, or the rest of their life, taking immunosuppressive drugs to avoid rejection. Often these drugs have significant toxicity and side effects as well. Here we're going to watch a short white blood cell tutorial. Leukocytes, or white blood cells, protect the body in various ways against disease. The red bone marrow stem cells, the hemocytoblasts, give rise to almost all the white blood cells. Some lymphocytes are formed in lymphatic organs. 5 types of white blood cells are carried in the blood to the sites of infection. These types are grouped mainly by cytoplasmic contents into 2 groups, the granulocytes and agranulocytes. Granulocytes, the red blood cell size granulocytes, are short-lived, about 12 hours, and develop in the red marrow. The 3 types of granulocytes follow. Neutrophils, the most common white blood cell, are 54 to 62%, according to this source, of the leukocytes, and are the first to arrive at infection site to ingest bacteria, viruses, fungi, or protozoa. The neutrophil nuclei may have 2 to 5 lobes. The cytoplasmic granules are usually very fine and too faint to observe. Eosinophils comprise only about 3% of the leukocytes. The eosinophils have bilobe nuclei and uniform-sized cytoplasmic granules. They moderate allergic reactions and defend against parasitic worm infestation. Basophils comprise less than 1% of the circulating white blood cells. The basophils are smaller than the other granulocytes. They're easy to identify because of the numerous granules in the cytoplasm. They discharge their granules containing histamine and heparin into damaged tissue spaces to promote inflammation and blood flow to damaged areas. Agranulocytes lack granules in their cytoplasm. The two types of agranulocytes follow. Monocytes comprise 2 to 8% of circulating white blood cells. Monocytes are twice the size of red blood cells. Monocytes have oval or kidney bean-shaped nuclei. They travel in the blood for about a day before exiting. The migrating monocytes are big eaters. They develop into macrophages and phagocytose bacteria and debris within the tissues. Lymphocytes, these are cells of immunity, are only slightly bigger than red blood cells. They are easy to recognize due to the large nucleus that occupies most of the cell. These cells may live for years and comprise 25 to 33% of the white blood cell population. T cells may directly attack foreign and tumor cells. B cells produce antibodies to attack foreign cells or proteins. NK or natural killer cells are important in cancer prevention. In order for leukocytes to perform phagocytosis, they must be able to leave the circulation system. They move like amoebas in a process of cytoplasmic streaming called diapedesis. The normal white blood cell count is 5,000 to 10,000 per cubic millimeter. Acute infections may elevate the white blood cell count above 10,000. This is called leukocytosis. The flu and other viral infections and various poisonings may cause leukopenia, where the white blood cell count falls below 5,000. And again, you will have access to this link outside of this presentation so that you can take the little quiz here. Platelets are the membrane fragments which help form the plug in blood clotting. They also release chemicals to promote clotting and vasospasm. When there is a hemorrhage, the body responds with a vascular spasm to reduce blood flow to the area. We have platelet adhesion to cause them to stick to the area around the hemorrhage and trigger a platelet release reaction to bring more platelets. The platelets aggregate into clumps and get caught in the mesh that forms from the fibrin. The process of clot formation is called clotting or coagulation.